classic WoW bosses fight each other, sign me up. Seems
Can you make
really
Herod
good.
fight Stitches? Yes, I can. We'll look at that matchup and several more in this video. And I'll tell you, I don't think I've ever received a more requested type of video than this one, than when I just happened to show a couple of boss v boss battles in recent videos. And so we're going to look at some of the boss abilities, and I'll explain some of the technical aspect of how this works and how accurate it is as we go. But the main thing is you can make your guess as to who's going to win each of these matchups, and then we'll watch the fights play out. So for our first matchup, this one's, I guess, sort of a gimme. We've got level 35 Stitches, the Menace of the Road in Duskwood, versus Herod, the level 40 boss of the Armory in Scarlet Monastery. And this is like the Herod POV here. So I'm on a GM account controlling Herod as my pet. And I can see his abilities, which are Rushing Charge, which he does at the start of the match. And then he has an Enrage that kicks off at 50% health, and a Cleave. And he has a Whirlwind that doesn't show up as an ability here. It's only part of the scripted event when you fight him in the monastery. And as for Stitches, he's more simple. Many of these bosses simply have their regular melee or base attack, and that's going to be the case for him. And as you can see, the level difference is just insurmountable here. The damage and armor values mean that Herod is hitting poor Stitches for around 140 and cleaving for over 200.
Bro,
and
Stitches can't do anything.
Meleeing Herod
just claps
around
his
50
cheeks.
or 60 a shot. And so we speed this up to the inevitable outcome.
God
it's really
damn.
No contest. Herod.
Okay, that was
wins
an
our
easy
first
one, though.
Fight, and Stitches, as you can see, drops Stitches Femur, the white quality armor enhancing offhand. And okay, on to our second matchup. This one is going to be Princess Theradris, the level 51.
And Lord Roccor from Blackrock Depths. Wow. Okay, who wins this one? What the hell? Okay, I think it's still Princess, right? Lord Roccor, does he even have any ability? Damn, I don't remember. No, it's gotta be the Princess. It's not even close.
Final boss of Maradon versus Lord Roccor, the level 51 first boss of BRD. Or it kind of depends on the route you take in BRD. Or
yeah, he just
Patty,
walks
but
around. You need to wait for him.
Anyway, Princess here has 3 abilities: Repulsive Gaze, Boulder, her ranged attack, and Dustfield, her AoE that everyone just calls Fart.
Fart,
and
yeah.
as for Roccor, he's another simple boss with no special abilities, just his melee. And as we kick
Damn, she was always this hot?
it off here, you can see I'm not letting Princess use her abilities on cooldown like you could, like with a hunter pet or any pet, by right-clicking and turning it on to an autocast. I'm just periodically clicking it, and I'm going to explain a bit more of why that is in our next fight. But as for this one, I'm not using Repulsive Gaze, her fear, because Roccor is immune, and I'm not using her ranged Boulder Throw because Roccor is, of course, in melee range. And so I'm hitting Dustfield every 20 seconds, which is how she works in the normal encounter, and the ability itself lasts for 8 seconds. And as you'll see here, it hits Roccor pretty good for around like 140, 150 damage per tick. And her melee hits for like 50-ish HP. It's the darker orange of the numbers there. And then the ability, the Dustfield, is the yellow damage. And we can see the hits from Roccor on Princess up here. He hits much harder. He's meleeing her for anywhere from between like 130 to 200.
Yeah,
and sometimes
pretty close.
critting for almost 400. So much higher but slower melee. But as you can see, Princess's health pool is way, way higher than Roccor's. And the damage done by Dustfield is just enough to eventually
Yeah, she got him.
overcome Lord Roccor, and down he goes. And
Turn him
he's
into
gonna
rubble.
drop his nice pre-60 starter shield. And with that, we're on to our third matchup. And I showed this one in passing in my GM Power.
Oh, damn. Okay, Battle of, yeah, like, what was I about to say? Like, Stratholm, like Skolomans. Yeah, the name just literally escaped my mind. Rattlegore versus Krastenov. I think Krastenov wins, right? Easy.
Hours video, and it's what prompted a lot of the comments I showed.
I'm putting my money on him.
And so when Zaryu watched that video, he stopped, and he and his chat were like really interested in it.
All right, guys, who wins this fight, Rattlegore or Krastenov? Who wins? Who wins?
And how often they cast and other things, but it's still pretty good and pretty interesting. And again, that is just...
Okay, the attack speed is way different than normal. This isn't even a fair fight.
And then, like, I barely showed the fight, and it was kind of over real quick, and it didn't make a lot of sense. And so, like, kind of disappointing. But here's the deal. So first off, Rattlegore's abilities are a knockaway, an instant damage ability, and War Stomp, a stun. And Krastenov, the Busher, his abilities are, again, smaller screen here. He has a Rend that Rattlegore's immune to, and a damage spell called Backhand, and then he enrages at 50%. So first of all, here's the fight Zaryu saw, and I just glossed over it in that video. And I'm playing this in real time, and you can see it's just no contest. Butcher is just getting wrecked. Well, with this GM control of the mob, some abilities don't like properly follow the GCD and are just spammed. And that's the case with Rattlegore. He's just spamming both of his abilities non-stop, and Butcher's immune to the War Stomp, but the backhand, which is Rattle's normal damage plus 30, is going off constantly, super fast for like 300 or 400 damage a tick. So like I said, that was disappointing, but we're going to show an accurate fight here in a second. But first, just for reference, here is real quick with no abilities, just raw auto attack or melee. And these guys, you can see it's a bit closer of a fight, but still Rattlegore's melee is hitting Butcher. Again, here are the damage numbers for much more than Butcher is hitting Rattle, again, up here. So same outcome. But okay, one more time, here is the real fight, as accurate as possible. I'm having Rattle use his knockaway damage ability every 20 seconds, which is what he does in the real Skullman's fight, and Butcher is using his backhand every 15 to 20 seconds, also which is how he works. And as you can see, it's unfortunately for the Butcher a similar
It's not
outcome.
even close.
He's tough for sure, but he just cannot overcome the much higher damage from Rattlegore. Now he does.
Damn, Rattlegore is busted.
Here we go, right
Dude, I love
here.
Rattlegore design
Gets
so
his
much.
enrage after 50%. And you can see he turns red there, and he does start to hit a bit harder, but it's not going to be nearly enough. And so this methodology of figuring out how the actual fights work and then adjusting or correcting for the timing of abilities as best I could is how I did all the fights in this video. And you might ask, well, why not just go fight in the dungeon and only MC one of the bosses? But I wanted to see their abilities on my pet bar, and then also ensure that like being controlled by the GM wasn't giving one or the other some advantage to one mob. So I elected to have both mobs controlled by 2 GM accounts. And so our definitive champ is Rattlegore, and we're on to our next match. And we're going to go big this time. This is 2 raid bosses. It's going to be Onyxia.
Wait, can Onyxia just literally fly? I mean, that would change the entire fight.
The original final boss of WoW versus Kazzak, the one of the original 2 vanilla world bosses. And as we
Actually,
get
I have
this
no
started,
idea
I'll
who takes
explain
this
the
one.
abilities. So Onyxia has a tail sweep, which obviously is not going to hit Kazzak in the front. Then has her main ability here, Flame Breath, which is the big like 3 to 4k hit in the front in a cone. And then these other 2 abilities don't really come into play. These are her breaths or deep breaths that she'd do during phase 2 up in the air. And I believe there are different versions for her different positions above the raiders in the normal encounter. And so for Kazzak, when MC'd, there's no abilities that show up. And I was confused by this and researched a bit and found that, you know, his abilities, which he has a couple of ranged shadow bolts, a T-clap, a cleave, a mana drain that kills the players when their mana's drained, and then his main ability where he heals when a raider dies, I found that those aren't normal creature abilities that show up on the bar when you MC the creature. They're more like script-driven abilities that only show up under certain conditions at certain times, and these don't transfer to an MCer. So anyway, long story to say that Kazzak is only going to melee, and I did take Onyxia separately to the Blasted Lands to fight Kazzak in the normal encounter. But you know, she's immune to most of what Kazzak does, and the rest of the abilities would affect multiple raid members, which
Damn.
doesn't really apply. So our story is
So
that
he's literally
Ani
crippled.
Here is meleeing
There's
Kazzak
nothing
for
he can do.
around, you can see 700 to 800, and periodically flame breathing for 3,000 or 4,000. And Kazzak is meleeing for around 500 a hit. And as you can see, they have drastically different health pools. Kazzak a little under 400k, and Ani at about 1.1 million. And so it's Onyxia with the clear advantage over this sort of somewhat gimped version of Kazzak, because he's designed to be much more dangerous to a large group if they don't kill him quickly. And as we'll see in our next fight, or I think it's going to be the one after this one, these raid battles take a long time, which initially surprised me, but then I realized, you know, these bosses are designed to be DPS by like 30 raiders blasting away and doing DPS to a single player target, a tank. So when you pit them against each other, the damage they do versus the damage they're designed to absorb means the fight's going to last a long time. So anyway, the outcome here really is no contest. Onyxia has way too much health and does way more damage than Kazzak.
Didn't
So
even
he's
put a
defeated,
dent in her.
And what does he drop here? It's a bunch of stuff. Look at that,
The eye.
173 gold. And there is the
Yep.
ED, big main hand.
There it is. Eye of Shadow.
Okay, so our next match, we're going to bring things...
Dude, you know what's funny? The one and only time I did Kazzak, of course he drops it because I think it's like 100% guarantee. And I played a Shadow Priest. I really needed that for my Anathema, and I already had Anathema. So whenever I yoinked it, people just looked that I had it, and they were like, wait, why did you roll for it? And I was like, damn, I should have had my weapon. That was so stupid, I could have sold it.
Things back down to normal
Made
size.
quick
We've got an
buck.
early dungeon final boss matchup. It's going to be Mutanus the
Mutanus-
Devourer, the level 22 last boss from Wailing Caverns versus Edwin VanCleef, level 21. and
No
the
way
last
he's
boss
losing
from
to a
Dead
fish.
Mines. And again, these are two
That's
pretty
crazy.
simple melee-only bosses that would be much more complex in their real environments, right? Like Mutanus comes after an escort in Wailing Caverns and like a couple rounds or waves of mobs, I think. And VanCleef is much more tough because he spawns with 2 stealth adds and then 2 more show up halfway through. But when we strip all of that away, you get just a good old-fashioned beat-em-up brawl. And this one's close. You can see the health ticking down there. And as we get to the end, by a hair, it's going to be Mutanus pulling this out. And when it's that close, you could say, well, it's just RNG with crits that can change things. But I did let this one play out 3 separate times, and the outcome was always the same. And we're actually watching the closest one here. So the early dungeon champ is Wailing Caverns over Dead Mines. Okay, next up we have Battle
He
of
lost
the
to a fish.
Undead Endgame Dungeon Bosses. Make your guesses on this one. It's going to be Baron Rivendare, level 62, versus Darkmaster Gandling, level 61. Strat Undead versus Skolomance. And Baron
Nah,
is going
that
to be
gotta be
melee
Rivendare.
only, but he also has his Unholy Aura that will tick. And Gandling has a curse
Yeah, his
that
aura
weakens
is
the
insane.
target. And he has Arcane Missile spell that he won't cast because he's going to be in melee range. Okay, we've got to get this one started right away because as you can see, Baron's aura begins ticking as soon as I make these guys hostile. And so here we go. You can see Baron's melee hits on Gandling are, again, the orange, and then the ticking Unholy Aura is the yellow. And we can watch Gandling's melee up here, and then we can see eventually Gandling's curse go out,
Yeah.
which transforms Baron and lowers his strength a bit. And this is an interesting fight because Gandling has a much higher
He
health
took away
pool
his
than
horse.
Baron, but
No
Baron is
mount.
doing much more DPS due to the combination of the Unholy Aura and his melee. And so we're going to speed this up a bit. And as we get toward the end
Dude,
of
Baron
the fight,
model is so
we
sick
can
as well.
see,
I can't believe you can have
look at
this
how close
mount.
this ends up being.
My old guild leader has this, like, had this mount as an alliance. It was so sick. Like, seeing a dwarf priest ride on this mount is insane.
But it's the Baron who overpowers
It was so
Gandling
good. One of the better
and was
parts
able
of
to
Classic.
claim the, there it is, the Devout Crown and the Witchblade from him. All right, our next fight is going to be a little different. We'll call this one, we're going to call this Horde versus Alliance, or maybe Undercity versus Ironforge, because it's going to be Lady
Bro, if Magni loses this, I'm out of the video.
Sylvanas Windrunner, leader
Stop.
of the Undead, or the Forsaken, versus King of Ironforge,
Stop.
Magni Bronzebeard. And again, these are melee-only faction bosses. And so right away, we get started, and you can see that, like, what the heck is going on? The health bars aren't even moving, even though I can see both of these taking a bit of damage. But this is the ultimate, example of, or magnification of the issue I talked about with Ani and Kazzak. So these are world faction bosses that are designed for, or potentially made to be attacked by, it could be an opposite faction raid or raids of 100 or more players, and they need to survive a reasonable amount of time. So they're going to have insane amounts of armor and massive health pools.
Man,
And they're also not
73
gonna be
damage is
hitting
wild,
super
though.
hard that they one-shot players. So when pitted against each other, their damage is very small and their health and armor is very high. And so we get a fight that would last absolutely forever. And actually, I let this one go on for 20 minutes, just like this, to the point where finally there was a little move here in Lady Sylvanas' health bar. And so that, combined with her lower health pool, and the fact that their damage seems similar, lead me to, with apologies to my Horde friends, I declare King Bronzebeard the winner of this one.
As a Horde main, it's fine. I approve of this. It's okay.
But I did not let the entire thing play
I wish this could happen in retail.
out for hours and hours. Okay, one more small, very quick fight before we get to our final raid boss showdown. And this one we're
Gazz'uz.
going to call the NA Hardcore Server Battle. And you might know our hardcore servers are named for infamous hardcore killers. And I play on Defias Pillager, which is the name of the level 14 caster in Westfall. And the other NA server is Skull Rock, which is the brutal cave full of warlock casters. And at the end is the level 14 caster Gazz'uz here. And this is like a blink and you'll miss it fight. We let them cast on each other. And there they go.
Man, you have quicker cast time. It's not fair.
And
They
so
got
the
her.
champion of the NAHC server showdown is Gaz, or Skull Rock. And grats to him on the linen cloth from this poor Defias Pillager. And with that, we're on to our final battle. Two hard-hitting, like absolute badass bosses from
Patchwerk and
This is
Razuvious.
Patchwerk versus Instructor Razuvious.
Wait, isn't like Razuvious is literally impossible? You need to mind control the entire raid to actually survive. But Patchwerk damage is insane, and he's like a DPS champ. Wow, that's an interesting one. I actually don't know. I kind of want to say Razuvious because I like the fight, and also this guy's like base and Giga Chad, so I'll give it to him.
These guys have huge damage and massive health pools. Razuvious does an unbalancing strike that hits super hard, and a disrupting shout that's an AoE mana burn, and so it won't come into play here. And then Patchwerk, he'll just be meleeing like normal. He'd also do a hateful strike to off tanks, which aren't part of this fight, of course. But here we go. And again, watching Patchwerk's hits on Razuvious, we see up here. And you can see how extremely fast he's meleeing. He's hitting for, between 500 and 700 a whack, and critting for double that every so often.
Yeah, but Razuvious like dealing 10k almost.
His attack speed is actually very, very slow, but when he does connect, he hits extremely hard, like
yeah,
anywhere from 6 to 9k. And that's because, of course, he's supposed to be tanked by one of his mind-controlled students. No player is going to last long against those hits. And as you can see, every 30 seconds, when it comes up, he'll do his unbalancing strike, and that hits poor Patchwerk for like 25 to 30k or more, and you'll see that as the yellow numbers. There's one there.
Oh!
And so he ends up doing just a ton of damage, and it's a good fight that ends up going along for over 13 minutes in real time.
He got him. I knew it.
But
I knew it.
Unfortunately for Patchwerk, nothing can overcome that crazy Razuvious damage, and he claims the champ of Naxxramas and is able to claim Patchwerk's 134 gold, shoulder token, and then the axe severance. And that is our boss battles episode. If this was interesting, I'll do more of these. I'd like to hear what matchups you think you'd like to see, or other ideas.
Yeah, that was sick. Holy shit, that's the first video I watched from this guy. Oh my god, dude, that was good. That was unexpectedly good. I did not see this coming. It was so good. I actually love like betting on them. Unfortunately, you guys like not huge into it as I see, but damn, that was actually really, really good. I can't wait like to actually see the next one.